Welcome to Microsoft Build into Focus, where for the next 45 minutes, we're deep diving into the digital transformation enabled by Microsoft's low-code offering Power Platform. There's so much ahead, like an insightful customer story, demonstrations, and even audience questions. Let's hop in. This is Into Focus Low-Code Solutions. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Karuana and Gatimu, your host for Into Focus Low-Code Solutions using Microsoft Power Platform. I am thrilled to be here with all of you and with our Microsoft MVPs joining us from around the world via Microsoft Teams. Hi, everyone. Let's recap what we've covered so far on Into Focus. On day one of Microsoft Build, we did a deep dive into the metaverse. And not long ago, Seth Juarez showed us how to build applications powered by AI, which leads us to our show here. Joining me on this journey into Fusion development is Julie Strauss, General Manager for the Pro Developer and Admin Experiences across Power Platform. Hey, Julie.
Hey, Karuana. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I know. I'm really glad that you're here. So we have a lot to talk about. But first, before we get started, I know we're going to be talking about Fusion team development and Power Platform's commitment to it. But first, can you tell us, what is that all about? I mean, help our audience understand Fusion team development. What does that mean?
Yeah, no, Fusion team development is really this practice of building teams that build software solutions together. So you have citizen developers, pro developers, and IT professionals that really build solutions together. And the goal is really to accelerate that development cycle and take unique skills from each of these audiences and accelerate that whole digital transformation journey.
I think that's fantastic because I'm all about bringing people together. I just think it unlocks creativity and diversity and all that good stuff. So when these audiences come together, I imagine that they're delivering more business impact as a single unit. Do I have that right?
Yeah. No, it's really, you take the citizen developers who are typically not technical people, and they pair their expertise of the business with these low-code technologies that allows them to build solutions that really fills a gap for the business. Then you have the pro developers who can write code and can kind of extend the solutions in case you run out of steam and you hit a cliff. You can really build components as pro developers. And then you have IT who built the foundation, like they set up the guardrails for governance, etc. And depending on the company, also sometimes run DevOps, CI/CD pipelines if they're more business critical solutions. So that's kind of how they all come together.
Yeah, it feels like each developer has a role there. Are there more roles we should be thinking about, or is that really how the team is actually working?
There's always room for more, and we'll actually see some of that a little bit later on. But those are kind of the key components that we think about when it comes to Fusion teams.
That's great. Okay, so now we have the people, we understand the roles, and I understand that. But help me understand this. If I'm a pro developer, right, and I can write code, why do I care about this new fancy term?
It's a great question. And I think the main question is really, or the main benefit is really business impact. Like, we all want to have business impact. And if you can write code, we are not asking you to put your coding skills on the shelf. We're actually asking you to bring that to the table, collaborate with the business, and figure out how can you help amplify that, like build components. So instead of building a solution where you build the full stack and you take months, sometimes years to build a solution that maybe reach a few hundred people, if you can build components to enable other makers to take that even further, you can start reaching thousands of users. So we're really asking the pro developers to join the journey and be the heroes of driving low code.
Absolutely, and they're used to being heroes too. And now we have a whole group of them. Absolutely. Yeah. So how are you bringing all this together to enable Fusion development?
Yeah, if you look at the actual low-code platform, we have done a lot. We've actually done a lot this past year to get to a very good place when it comes to Fusion development. In the low-code experiences, we have done a lot around like multiplayer, co-authoring, coexisting, where you can see your peers in the applications, just like in Words, and you can comment and have a dialogue. But also on the pro or the code-first side of things, where we've been a little all over the place for a while. We've really gone to a good place where if you want to be in a write code and you want to be in VS Code, you can start there, you can update there, and you can complete your work there. So really optimized for allowing each audience to be in the tool where they have preference. So we're not asking everyone to be in the low-code environment. We are asking you to contribute to low-code development, but in your own way, so to speak. And we've done a lot of investments for creating, like liberating data sources through custom connectors, building UI components, etc. The whole CI/CD pipeline as well, with integration into GitHub and Azure DevOps. So there's a lot of work we have done to optimize for each audience.
And I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I also wanted to bring in what I heard you say earlier about feedback. You've taken a lot of feedback from the community to make some of these decisions and investments. How does that work in your team? You know, people sometimes say, oh yeah, we tell Microsoft, but they're not really listening. I happen to know we're listening, but help our audience understand how your group listens.
No, we do listen a lot. And look, we've done things wrong as well, but I feel we are correcting a lot of that. And we'll actually see a demo later on some of the experience we've really worked at tuning into how do we capture the interest and the energy from the pro developers as well. So we have an active listening system, and I encourage everyone here, go to the forum, try it out, and give us feedback. It's really the best way for us to build durable experiences for all these different audiences.
Because customers always give us insights that we're not going to see from inside where we're working. Our experiences of, you know, and our histories in this business is long, and so we have a certain perspective. I really feel like customers bring so much to the table for us to help us continue to innovate.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like Fusion Team Development. Everyone coming together, right, with their own perspectives.
Yeah.
But also, talk a little bit about, you know, you mentioned Visual Studio and you mentioned VS Code. How do you think about the tools that we're bringing to those developer experiences? Do you really see them as the favorite tools of a particular set of people, or do you see some interchange between them? Help me understand that, because I've gone from one to the other. Right? I used to be in Visual Studio, now I pretty much live in VS Code.
We do see a little bit of both, but we have clearly heard pro developers want to be in VS and VS Code. In the beginning, it was like, oh, everybody can be in low code, and it really didn't work that well. However, what we do see now that a lot of pro developers actually embrace low code. It's not as a full thing, but let's say you create a custom connector over a legacy data source. If you just quickly want to build a UI on top, why not just go into low code and do it? It doesn't mean you're forgetting your coding skills. You're just building code first for the components where that's a requirement, but we see more and more pro developers really embracing the full platform. So we do see kind of a little bit more exchangeability than we used to see. So
that's great. I mean, this is really maturing very quickly. It's moving on, and you're taking the feedback. It's really inspiring to see the way you all are doing that. But so what are we discussing with the ZF group? I know we have these folks. What are we going to learn from them today?
Yeah, so ZF Group is one of the largest automotive technology suppliers, and they have, as part of their launch of Office 365, they actually let every single user have Power Platform as well. And they're a phenomenal company that has embraced Fusion Teams. So not only are they using Fusion Team development when they create more complex applications, they actually created a Fusion Team app to encourage Fusion Team development. That's a lot of Fusion Team. But they really built an app where the citizen developers can ask for help for the pro developers as well. So they were a really practical example that we thought we would share today to get a feel for what it can look like.
That's great. Well, let's take a look. I want to see this.
Yeah, we talked with them earlier, so we can roll the video. Yeah.
Hi. I'm Dale Yon, Senior M365 Cloud and Power Platform Architect at ZF Group. Today, I will be demoing our process to show how we accommodate Fusion development and enable citizen and pro developers to collaborate. Now, with this process, our citizen developers can build more advanced apps that also includes pro developer participation and can have access to business-critical data that was previously available only to our professional developers building code-first apps. Now, citizen developers can make requests through a Power Apps UI that submits all required information through our automated back-end pipelines, which automatically creates an Azure DevOps org with related projects where professional developers can pick up work items and run their work as they used to in a code-first world. So let's get started. Here you can see the new request that I'm going to create for a new app I want to build. In this example, the app is using third-party OAuth. As I'm submitting, I'm notified that it's going to take some time for IT security to review through our approval flow. Switching over to Outlook and looking at it from the decision maker's point of view, they receive actionable email messages in Outlook that enables them to quickly act on this without navigating anywhere else. When they are done, the requester receives feedback that the request has been approved and they can proceed with their work. Now, let's jump over into the DevOps side of things to show what happens behind the scenes for this business-critical apps that requires a more structured process to build and release. In this example, we will show this from an Azure DevOps request app, since it is a great example of an app built by Fusion teams that requires work from both citizen and professional developers. So now, after the request is approved, a lot of automation happens in the background. The new build from the alpha pipeline takes place, and now as we can see that a request is successfully pushed from the alpha Git repo to the Power Platform environment of that requester. And that solution package is an app called Azure DevOps Request App. And if we jump over to the environment to where it's been deployed, you can see the app itself. Here they are able to submit things such as creating new projects, creating work items, and even enable traditional code-first source control. So here I entered my org, my URL for my work, and here's the project name, Microsoft Build 2022, with description, work item process, source control, and request ID. Once I submit, in the background I have a logic app that is triggered, adding all the request details from the app I showed previously. Here, I am also using an Azure function that creates the project with all the information for us. Of course, we can also monitor the success of the work here, just like we would with our traditional code-first development. So now through this work, we can really focus on cloud adoption side of things and helping everyone connect and collaborate to build applications spanning code-first in Azure, handled by our professional developers and the Power Platform for our citizen developers. I hope you enjoyed this demo, and please enjoy the rest of Microsoft Build 2022.
That was really cool. I liked what they did there. We were saying during the break, I usually don't like things in the way of provisioning, but I liked that whole scenario there. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
So now let's take a question from our audience. Sharon Sumner, CEO of Casper 365, has a question. Sharon, over to you.
Hi, Julie. What are you seeing as the biggest challenges organizations are having when adopting the low-code model?
That's a great question. And I think we used to have a little bit of challenges getting the different audiences connect, but I feel we have solved for that. I think the main challenge we see right now is it can sometimes be IT, right? To say, oh my gosh, I'm going to give all this power to users and they're going to create so many apps and what am I going to do? But the reality is, because it is a managed platform, you really bring visibility to IT by embracing the platform. So instead of not knowing what is being built, you're really creating a foundation for giving yourself the visibility. So it's a little bit of a mind shift, like how do we open our minds a little bit and embrace what is already being built, but get visibility so we can manage it. And I think that change in the thinking and approach, it's very different. That can sometimes be a challenge, but we see more and more companies who are getting really comfortable rolling it out more broadly. It's a great question, and we see it all the time.
It's such a great point. You know, in my own experience in being an IT professional, I know that feeling you get in the pit of your stomach when you're worried about the things that are out there that you're going to have to support, and what if something goes wrong and what have you. But, you know, seeing the solution from ZF and then the group, and then also hearing you talk about it, there's so much management capability there that you get that transparency. You can be more comfortable as an IT professional with being able to drive this transparency. Otherwise, you have shadow IT, which we've had for many, many years.
Yeah, and this is actually the opposite of or shadow IT. It brings it out so you have visibility. Any connector being used, any app being created, you have the visibility. That's actually luxury in my mind. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is that IT cannot build every single thing all the time. There's just more work than any of us could ever get done. So, I find the whole thing fascinating, this huge shift that we're doing, right? So it's fantastic. So now tell us about Power Apps and some of the key product updates. I know there's some exciting stuff there that is going to support Fusion development.
Yeah, we always talked about Fusion development is all about collaboration, doing things faster, but we are adding, and I was hinting to it a little bit, we are adding prettier to the mix. So we have launched what we call Express Design, which is really integration into Figma. So imagine you work with your design team and they live in Figma. Many designers love living in Figma, and they come up with this pixel perfect design. And now when they are done, they hand it over to the app maker, who now try and mimic that same design inside your app maker experience. Not anymore. You can actually take this Figma design and import it directly into Power Apps and magically create an app with it.
Wow, the ease of that workflow, it sounds magical. People have been using that word today, so I'm going to use it too. It's really intriguing to me. But plus, anytime you can save in that process is great. It gets people to value more quickly. So can you show us?
I thought you would never ask. So this app we're going to show you, it was created for people working with hearing and language in a company called New Hearing Australia. And you see here we are in Power Apps. We can see there are 3 screens in the demo. The last screen is really a area where you can input training information and sign up. You can see we don't yet have a submission button, so we will add that just to give you a feel. The app also have information about the community that they're going to visit, so you can get educated in the process. But if you see here, we will add a button, and this is just how Figma works. I'm the designer, and you can see I can line it up pixel perfectly to where I want it to be. And I could just rename it here to submit. And now we have this 3-page app, which really looks like a Power App, but you can see it's perfectly laid out, exactly like you would as a professional designer. So now we can save this file and we can navigate into Power Apps. And you see blank app there. This is really where we would normally start, blank canvas, and you start recreating. But if you see here, we have the Figma entry point where when you click this, we can point to the file. We can give it a name, we can call it New Hearing Australia. We can link to the frame for the Figma file and give it our personal access token and select the format we want to use. And now literally magic is happening. The little spinny there is building an app for us. And it's really exciting because, as you can see, it come out exactly like it was designed. And you can see here we have the 3 different pages. We have the welcome screen for Lydia, our health worker, as well as the detail pane and the form that we created in the button. All I need to do now is hook that up to a database to take the input. That's really all there is. So it's not even no code, it's almost no touch, right?
Wow.
So that's like bringing in additional people to this Fusion team development.
Right, and being an adoption person, something that it looks appealing and has a wonderful user interface, it's easier to help people to use, right? And so that's always been true. This is beautiful and completely amazing. So what are some of the other advantages of that workflow and what impact it's going to have on organizations that you can think of?
It is really, you touch on some of it, is the beautiful apps drive more adoption, but it's also bringing in more people to that process, right? You have all these experts, and I think that's where Microsoft has such an advantage. Like, we have the professional developers, we have the citizen developers, now we can bring in designers. It's using this very unique expertise, which is really what accelerates the process versus one person building the full stack. So it's really acceleration of the whole process, inviting more people to the party.
And each one of those groups has their own culture too. And so I really am looking at, again, that people first initiative of having these people work together and learn from each other. I learn from pro developers, I learn from designers, and now you can have all that together for the business. That's huge. So I'm thrilled about this. And it's So impressive. So for our audience to lean in and learn more about this important skill is something we want to do, because that's what Microsoft Build is all about, right? It's about you getting to learn and putting your hands on the keyboard. So if that's what's on your agenda, be sure to check out the Power Apps session titled "What's New in the World of Microsoft Power Apps" in the session scheduler. So we've seen what you just did in that demo, but are there other ways that the Fusion team can be extended?
Yes. There's many ways. Actually, the entire Power Platform you can extend. It's extensible all over the place. But I think we should pick what we call the code-first custom connector, because that's very highly relevant for a pro developer audience. Out of the box, the Power Platform has more than 700 connectors. It's amazing. And that's really what enables a lot of this app creation, right? You can have a legacy data source and you can build the new beautiful looking UI on top. We have invested quite a bit in making the experience single click from Azure API management to create a single custom connector to Power Platform from that experience. However, that's come back to listening. We thought that was fantastic, and a lot of Azure developers love it. But for those of us who want to live in VS Code, they were not that impressed with that experience. So what we did was invested in a code-first experience for custom connectors, really making that seamless. If you want to live in code, you can live in code all the way through. So I thought we would take a look at a deeper dive on what that looks like.
So, and also what you're saying is that the tools are becoming more powerful, right? You're streamlining them and expanding the audience so that the tools can support more people getting in on this entire situation. So let's see some of that in action.
Let's do it. So here you actually see the experience we have in API management. And if we click create here, you will see with a single push of a button, you can actually push that custom create connector into the Power Platform. And inside Power Platform, you also have experiences. This is actually where you used to have to go and update these connectors. But what we really want to enable was this code first experience, VS Code, for example. So if we switch over to VS Code, you will see that experience and how we can kind of work that end to end. So here you can see that on the left-hand nav, you can see that we already have the Power Apps extension installed. There you go. And with the authentication profile, we already connected to 2 different instances of Dataverse, which is really the back end for the Power Platform. So this is one of these are my development environment. And I already have my source code loaded. I have a open API definition that I work from. And here you can see I use the pack connector create command, which is really what is creating the connector. The same as when you do it in the UI, you just do it in a code-first way. Once I have created that connector, I can also use the list command to go and list all the custom connectors in my environment. And I can update it. So if I want to modify my source code, I can do that from in here as well. That might sound like, yes, of course I can, but that actually used to be very complicated because an update, you had to go into the Power Apps environment. So that's what I talked about in the beginning. We were kind of asking you to jump all over the place, but here you can start in VS Code, you can update, and now when you've done your change, you can kick off a PR that will initiate that CI/CD process. So behind the scene, Azure DevOps or Azure or the GitHub Actions will take care of that entire pipeline automation for you. And now you can push that all the way into a Power App environment. And in the Maker experience, either a citizen developer can go ahead and work on that and create a UI on top of that connector like any other connector. Or you can do it yourself if you want to quickly build a UI that goes on top of that experience. So that's really start in code, stay in code.
I love that because I heard Satya talk about also in his keynote yesterday, the developer tool experience and keeping people in the flow.
Yes.
I feel like this is something about that. And I certainly know that, attention, we talk about attention management and reducing the things that actually, impact your attention on anything.
Yeah.
I think as a developer, either citizen or professional, it's really important. So I'm getting the feeling that you're all thinking about that attention management, that flow state as you're building these things. Right.
Yeah, so it's been a really, really big focus for us to make sure we optimize again for each audience. They can live where they want to be. We're not asking you to go retrain in another tool, another language. We're really asking you to be in the tool of your choice and contribute to this low-code journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Because everybody's getting started. There's such an opportunity now from a career perspective too, right? I feel like you're making these tools more accessible to more people, and we're going to see more creativity, and I hope all of you out there, share with us what you build, share with us that feedback, share with us how this is going for you as you're learning all of this, use the backpack in the show experience as well, so that you can continue to go deeper and save the information that's about these tools, because obviously we get to talk about it here, but there's so much to do, and I personally learn when I put my hands on the keyboard.
Yeah. No, that's what we want you all to do, and bring the feedback back to us as well, so we can learn and make sure we built the right experiences for you all.
Absolutely. So it's great. All right. So we have more things to talk about, more stuff to talk about now. So similar to what I asked about Express Design Workflow, how does this impact in an organization? I mean, how does it build on the Fusion development philosophy?
I think it's actually the same with the Express Design. It's really making sure that instead of asking people to move around and learn new experiences, we want to invest where people are comfortable working. We're not asking you to change your job, your experience, how you work. We really just want to amplify the notion of low code. So think of low code as a kind of a wave you're part of, rather than the tools you're in. And that's really what we want to enable, make sure we give all these unique experiences. And honestly, that's where Microsoft is strong, right? We know the developer community, we know the low-code community. So building up those strong experiences to support that is what we are really excited about. And I feel we've done a lot here the last year. So
absolutely. And it's you can see it as we review those 10 top trends that Satya talked about and everything else. We're really, I love that. We're part of a wave. Yes. not just
I made that up.
Not just I know you did, and that's why I like doing these things live, because people make stuff up and it's awesome. There's already been so much that we've covered, but people looking for more, go and check out the Expedite Application Delivery with Low Code and Fusion Team session. Of course, as I said, you can add that via the session scheduler. That session scheduler is really your curriculum for the future, and so you want to just keep adding things to it so you can come back and also get all the resources and assets. So now let's take another question from our Microsoft MVPs. Beth Burrell, Senior Global Black Belt and Technical Specialist at Microsoft. Beth, over to you.
Hey, Julie. What I was wondering is, how can we better help our customers and partners see how exciting the road ahead is for all the Microsoft clouds?
Ooh, that's also a great question. You picked the good ones here. I think obviously follow Bill. We have lots of announcement blog posts. We also have our roadmap released publicly, so you can go and see what's coming. But I think most important for me is ask you to all participate. Ask us to give us feedback on what the roadmap should be. So to ask the pro developers, the citizen developers, to participate in that feedback cycle, so we can make sure you are part of developing that roadmap moving forward. So lots of resources to go learn where we are going, but also use the kind of empowerment to go and influence where we should be going.
That's fantastic. And there's one more question from the community. How committed is Microsoft to community and learning? Right? We are so committed to community. We've just announced our new initiative, the Microsoft Community Initiative, and we want all of you to get involved. This is an opportunity to host community days. You can participate in our public advisory board. You can, again, give us feedback, but really lean in. And this is across Microsoft 365, Power Platform, the developer community. It's all inclusive. And I'm excited to have so much initiative and focus on this as we go forward, because we've seen it, of course, during the pandemic, but even before. Community is where people are learning, and we're learning so much from them. So get engaged, get connected. You can find out more by visiting aka.ms MCI blog, and there's the sign up there for all of the activities that we'll be doing. So hop over there and get engaged for sure. So, and I know that, you've been involved, both of us have been involved in community, and, the developer community has always been so vibrant. But do you see now that there's more diversity in it? Do you see like different people getting involved in the developer community and like identifying as a developer?
We do actually, and we've done surveys where we ask the users of Power Platform how they identify, and there's actually a large portion now that identify as professional developers, even they are like working in the low-code environment.
Yeah.
And so we do see a mix, and we see people who has never written a line of code, some even have never even written a SQL select statement, and they're building apps in Power Apps. They empower the entire enterprise and have built apps with hundreds, sometimes thousands of users, right? And it's that ability to start small, but have the solution grow up. And that really allow much more people to participate in that journey.
Yes, and we saw that at the beginning also, in the solution to help with the food bank donations in Ukraine that was at the top of the show.
Yeah.
And I just think, when people can apply this technology to help others to solve world problems, like that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm here.
Yep.
I think that's why we're all here.
Yes. No, and I think with the Power Platform, this ability to see a problem and go and design a solution, even without being a developer, it is so empowering. So it's very inspiring as well, and apps feed more apps, and it's really about solving problems for the business, which is much easier the closer you are to the business.
Yeah, 100%. That's beautiful. That's quotable. I'm going to steal that from you for sure. We've been talking about how we're transforming the developer and the Fusion developer experience, but now let's think about the business opportunities that are available as well. We're going to have a fantastic conversation with Autodesk, who are bringing in their customer Stantec. Julie, tell us about them.
Yes, this one I am very excited about. I'm excited about everything, as you might have seen by now, but I'm really excited about this one. So Autodesk built software for the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, or AC, and they deliver software to customers that tackle designs that are kind of complex. They're complex because they handle large data volumes, they handle many different file types, but they also handle intellectual property that customers really want to protect, right? So Autodesk built a very clever solution where they are embedding Power Platform, Power Automate to be specific, into their SaaS software solutions so that they are extending the value of low-code to their end customers. And yeah, it's a very exciting scenario that we have here. And so I wanted to welcome Amy and Paul here to go through some of the solutions they have built. So we have Amy here. She's the Vice President of AC Design for Autodesk, and she's joined with Robert Manner. And Amy, I'm super excited for you to talk a little bit about Autodesk and kind of the organization that you are leading.
Thanks, Julie. It's really great to be here. So Autodesk is a platform company for the design and make industries. We're best known globally for AutoCAD, but the Autodesk portfolio is expansive, and it supports a wide range of purposes and industries, including media and entertainment, architecture, engineering and construction, and product design and manufacturing. Now, the AEC group that I am responsible for at Autodesk, we build software to support professionals who create the environments that you all experience every day. We support architects, engineers, and construction teams designing and building the homes you live in, the office buildings you work in, roads, highways, parks, and transit stations that you use every day. And we do this by developing and improving our design authoring products, like our modeling workhorse, Revit. Now, for more than 30 years, we have worked with customers, firms like Stantec, which you'll hear from Robert in just a minute, to improve our products in targeted ways that make an impact for everyday users of these solutions.
I love that. I love that customer focus, really embracing that. So with that, Robert, oh, sorry, do you want to?
No, it's fine. I was just going to call out the fact that I want to make sure that everyone on this knows that our friends are live here with us. I think that's really important. We really appreciate your time being here. And we've heard about Autodesk for so long, but I love that you gave that overview because it helps us understand really the breadth and depth of what's going on. And yeah, Robert, would you welcome? Would you like to tell us about Stantec and some of the challenges that you ran up against as you were working on this?
Sure. Thanks, Julie and Amy. Happy to be here. Stantec is a 25,000 person global design firm. So I like to say we design everything that you use or inhabit globally. And the team that I'm part of is really helping our building design teams adopt new technology and leverage all this data that they generate with products like Autodesk Revit and AutoCAD. One of the biggest challenges the building design industry has really is the fact that so much of our design data is locked into these proprietary file formats that Revit and AutoCAD and other products use. And so that's a challenge right there. We have all that data there. And then another challenge with these proprietary files is a scope and size challenge. So a handful of files contain potentially a large chunk of our design scope and our design data, and those files can get fairly large, hundreds of megabytes to even gigabytes. And ultimately, when we want to collaborate with people or even collaborate internally with their own teams, we only need to share a portion of that data. We don't need to ship a gigabyte file off to somebody when really we need to just share this small piece of data with them. And ultimately, that relates to another big challenge, which is QA, quality control for this data. Because buildings are so large and complex, we need to be able to check individual pieces of the data and share those individual sets of data where it's appropriate, because ultimately our legal responsibility rests in our drawings that we produce. So this notion of sharing data and transforming our industry is new in a lot of ways, and we're still trying to find the best ways to share that data.
Wow. So, Amy, as the Executive Vice President, you have some challenges here you need to solve for. So I love that dialogue. And this is where you turn to Power Platform?
Yeah, so as you heard from Robert, we've got a lot of surface area to cover, both in data and in stakeholders. So in order to enhance our solution for customers like Stantec, we needed something that would help us unlock this siloed data and also speed up the transfer of that information. And we needed it to be supported by a seamless end-to-end workflow. So, we looked at building our own workflow engine. That didn't make a lot of sense. It would have taken us a very long time to accomplish that. And so our team of developers built a connector and embedded the Power Automate capability directly into our own development platform, which is called Autodesk Forge. Now, this integration not only saved Autodesk years of development work, it also unlocked an amazing amount of innovation for us and for our customers using this application.
I love that. And this is why I find this scenario so compelling, all the kind of investments that you are saving and yet providing value. So Robert, why don't you tell about how you perceived what were the outcome of this from a benefit perspective from your way?
Right. So you talked on this about this earlier, which is the notion of IT being concerned about, what are people doing, what do they have access to, and control over that. So the Power Platform, right, gives IT that level of comfort and control of, we know what we're permitting our users to do, we know what we're allowing in or out of our systems. So right there, that's hugely important for a large global enterprise, that we've got a manageable system that the users can use to manipulate and access this data and use it downstream in the larger Microsoft environment in particular. The other key part here is with what Autodesk has done is that it's allowing us to share subsets of the data. So rather than having to share that whole chunk of data out of that proprietary file, they've given us the power to say, no, we only want to share this piece of data with you because that's what you need. And that also perceptually makes it easier to think about QAing it, right? People can say, oh, I know that this piece of data is right. I don't have to worry about this other stuff because that's not what in scope right now, but this is correct. I can share it. And because we're bringing it into the Microsoft ecosystem, we can scrub it further if we need to downstream, not just in the original native application itself. And the data that we're sharing is generic now. So we're not sharing native application data. We're actually sharing just data. And that's hugely important too, because previously, if we said, here's this file, somebody has to know what to do with that file. Now we can say, here's some data. And data is becoming a very common language, right? And you've touched on that a great deal. So ultimately, being able to do all this allows us to bring this data into a much larger system. And Microsoft's platforms obviously allow us to mash up a lot of data from a lot of sources. So as much as we like Autodesk, there are a lot of other vendors that we deal with as well that we're pulling data out of. So this gives us that power, right? Because now we can use Power Query, Power BI, Azure tools and systems, right, to start to consume and use this data, whatever level we sort of need to do that at.
It sounds like an amazing partnership, though. I mean, you know, Amy, it sounds like you were able to accelerate your own development process, but you also solved challenges for Robert and the team that you have in this process at Stantec. That it's really, I think this is amazing. A platform within a platform with the data. It's huge.
No, I love it. And I think this partnership of like using low code where you can and accelerate your own development process and then adding value on to the customers, it's pretty amazing. So Amy and Robert, thank you so much for joining us, sharing this amazing story with the audience today. Really appreciate it. And thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I hope that people who are watching, both the professional developers and the business folks and everybody, are really thinking about this way of empowering their customer. That's what I think that's the most important thing I took away from that, was the way that they thought about how Autodesk thought about what they could do for their customer and then what the customer was able to do from there. You know, instead of investing all their time in building their own product and platform, they partnered with us, which it's amazing.
No, and I think it's this, like Amy said it very well, instead of developing their own workflow engine, like we have quite a few engineers working on that problem, right? And so taking that and embedding, and they focus on kind of where they have their main expertise, and yet passing the benefits on to Robert, who can now work with other data. So the data isn't locked up in one silo. So it's really a great example. So low code is not just about building apps. It's also for ISVs and pro developers to embed in other experiences where you want to have that ability to customize.
And it unlocks the power and potential of everyone's creativity in that scenario. But also, I mean, from a business solution architect perspective, I always like to think about any time that I can use something rather than build something, that's a good move, right? And then you have that time for customization in, you know, really unlocking that business process versus spending that time on the platform element itself, right?
You got it.
Beautiful. I've been thinking about this for a few years I've been thinking about this stuff, and I really enjoy it. It's part of my favorite thing, because the reason I enjoy this work, and I hope all of you out there are thinking about this as well, is that when you really solve a business person's problem and you see that look on their face when they oh, you did it, you really did it, that is so rewarding. To me, that's how I bring meaning into the work as well. I know you do too.
I'm with you. Yes.
I know you are too. It's so impactful, you know, the Power Platform, we know that it is. And low-code solutions are really here to stay. You know, I really think they are. But I have another question for you. I want to ask you this too. You know, you and I have both been women in technology for a long time. We've seen this industry and this space really evolve. Where do you find your meaning in this work? What do you find? I know we're all excited, but what do you find the most meaningful about some of these things that you're launching now and the work that you're doing?
The conversation we just had, right? I grew up I worked in Azure before I came to the Power Platform, and I've seen that experience. And when I joined the Power Platform, I was like, either this is crazy or it's brilliant. And I've clearly been drinking the Kool-Aid. But this ability to really accelerate and empower people to do things faster and collaborate, and to your point, the facial expression of your customers when they realize how much they can do, I just feel I have the best job in the world. I'm very lucky. So.
Well, then we share that. We definitely share that. Julie, this has been an incredible session. Before we wrap up, we have one other quick question from our MVPs. And you almost already answered that, because I know we're running a little short on time. But what is the biggest obstacle that you think of for achieving this ultimate goal?
I really think it is making sure that we bring these three audiences together.
That's
we need
awesome.
the pro developers, we need the citizen developers, we need IT to help unlock. So I say, like, let's have all those three audiences come together. The business can move on their own, and they are, whether you want it or not. But I think if we can pair all these three audiences, then we have a good thing going.
That's amazing. That's so great. The world of fusion development is so vast. I know there's so much we didn't get a chance to touch on. But, you know, we've talked about what's meaningful. We've talked about bringing all of these people together, and I really appreciate that. I'm sure we could go on for days about this stuff. I know we could, for sure. It's been great to share this stage with you. Thank you so much for that. A big thanks to the ZF Group for sharing their customer story. Also to our MVPs, waving to all of you who joined us from around the world via Microsoft Teams. Awesome questions. Thank you so much. I want to take this moment also to encourage all of you to get active in the Microsoft community. There are so many resources and opportunities to connect with and learn from people who are just as excited as you are and who are on this journey. It's always more fun to learn together.
Fantastic. I am so excited, and thank you for having me. It's been a great session.
Absolutely. And there's a blog out there that people can also take a look at, right? And it's in your backpack, and you can make sure to get that information on the Microsoft Build site.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.